From Powell River to Tofino, Comox to Seattle, and all the spots in between, Harbour Air is ready to get you there quickly and hassle-free. Enjoy travel again with Harbour Air.
All right, let's talk about the gun control file in Canada now. The Justin Trudeau government's ban on assault-style weapons, at least that's how the government describes them. The expanding banned list here, now including some hunting rifles and shotguns. Unreal. And how much is this all going to cost? You know, the federal minister responsible said the other day, they're working on a buyback program. So all these banned firearms now that the government is adding to this lengthening list, you could sell them back to the government. Man, oh man, how much is that going to cost? That's got to be billions of dollars, isn't it? Let's check in with Rod Giltaca now, Canadian Coalition for Firearm Rights. Rod, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you, Mike.
Is there any estimate on how much this buyback program would cost?
Well, not the most recent version of it. If you remember, there were several estimates floating around for the initial version, which involved probably around 500,000 firearms, and that was somewhere between 1 and 4 billion, depending on who you ask. So this version of it that would involve possibly up to 50% of all firearms in the country would be far beyond that, I would imagine.
50% of all firearms would be banned?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, absolutely. Virtually all semi-automatic firearms. We really don't know how many there are in the country. It could be in the order of millions of semi-autos. And then there's a variety of bolt-action and single-shot rifles that are named in these two amendments to Bill C-21. And then, of course, the most concerning part is the language of variant. So anything that the RCMP later determines as kind of a descendant of any of these now prohibited firearms, the RCMP themselves, the police, can make them prohibited as well. And they did that to 400 firearms last May 2020 when there was another prohibition. They prohibited another 400 firearms in addition to the 1,500 that were prohibited based on their opinion that they were variants.
Okay, this is going to cost Canadian taxpayers an unbelievable amount of money if this goes through. Like you said, billions of dollars. That could be the lowball estimate here, because I'm starting to get deja vu on this thing, especially when you think back to the old long gun registry. Right? Yeah. Remember that? How much they said that was going to cost, what, $2 million?
Yeah,
at the start?
$2 billion, so 1,000 times over.
Oh my God. Unbelievable. Let's go back into the Wayback Machine here, Rod. We're going to play some historic audio here. Now, let's go back to the 1990s. Okay, so the long gun registry, as it was rolled out by the Jean Chrétien Liberal government at the time, they said it would cost $2 million to register all long guns in the country. And then the price tag started to explode. And then later government backed off on it. So this is why I'm getting deja vu, man. Like, I hear about these buybacks. This is going to cost a fortune because you can just count on this going over budget. You just know it's going to happen. So let's listen to this. Now you're going to hear you'll hear Alan Rock here, who was the justice minister at the time who brought in the long gun registry. Then you'll also hear from Sheila Fraser, who was then the Auditor General, and Chrétien, who was then the Prime Minister. Have a listen to this.
All that we're asking of firearms owners is to fill out 2 cards and mail them in.
The predicted cost to taxpayers, $2 million, period. Cut to yesterday, and an updated prediction from Auditor General Sheila Fraser.
And now will cost significantly more than that, up to $1 billion or more.
Yes, there was cost overrun. It was more than we expected, but the system is in place, and it's a good system, and it's very good for Canadian citizens.
More than we expected. Yeah, I guess so. $2 million to over $1 billion. Rod, do you see any kind of historical parallels here? What's going on now?
Well, of course. And another historical parallel, if you remember, Sheila Fraser came out with a report and determined, because she was the Auditor General, and determined that the Liberal Party at the time misled Parliament on the out of control costs. They lied to Parliament, and that was officially declared by the Auditor General. So it's all the same pattern, unfortunately.
Speaking of Rod Giltaca, Canadian Coalition for Firearm Rights, and we're talking about the potential cost here for a federal gun buyback program here with all these banned firearms. Let me play another clip here for you, because this is one that I think a lot of people get some misinformation. Maybe they don't understand the issue precisely. I think there's a lot of politics that goes on here. This is Justin Trudeau describing the assault weapon ban, as the government calls it, and why they're banning these firearms. So here's what Trudeau had to say, then I'll get your thoughts, Rod. Have a listen.
We are banning 1,500 models and variants of these firearms by way of regulations. These weapons were designed for one purpose and one purpose only: to kill the largest number of people in the shortest amount of time.
You see, when he says that, and this is something it's a line he continues to use and repeat, that these are guns that are designed to kill the most number of people in the shortest amount of time. I think when people hear that, Rod, they think like, oh, he's talking about like a machine gun. He's talking about like a fully automatic weapon. Like you hold the trigger down and it sprays bullets out. That's what it sounds like he's describing. But those are banned already. You cannot buy a fully automatic weapon in Canada, right?
Yeah, those were banned in 1977. And that is the only type of firearm that fits that description. But yet, and you listen to the drama, right? But yet he's just, and as you know, I'm not a fan of hyperbolic language, but he continues, obviously, to lie, but he continues to gaslight Canadians. And that's the frustrating part about this. Is he accuses everyone around him of spreading misinformation, yet it's the misinformation is coming from him. So just an example of the types of firearms that they're trying to ban in Amendment G43, which is part of this Bill C-21, is the 1908 Brazilian Mauser. This is a bolt-action rifle that is over 100 years old. A bolt-action rifle, that's a hunting rifle.
Yeah. And
of course, all the variants. And any other bolt-action rifle can be banned as following the same description that he's made. So it's bizarro world, Mike, honestly.
The Trudeau has said recently there's been a big pushback against these hunting rifles and shotguns that have been popped up on this list. And I think rightly so. And Trudeau has said okay, we're going to review the list. We don't want to ban hunting firearms. That's not our intention. So we'll review it. So I don't know, like maybe he does back down and remove some of these firearms from this banned list, but I often wonder too, like, I think maybe there's some deliberate politics going on. Like maybe these particular firearms, hunting firearms, were deliberately added to this list because they want to fight over it. They want the Conservatives to oppose it. They want to debate over firearms in Canada because they know it's good politics for them, especially in urban ridings. But your thoughts?
Well, I think that that benefit is in decline because they pushed it too far. I mean, the Liberals are, the quintessential boy that cried wolf. They're constantly whipping Canadians up, whipping them into a frenzy. And same thing over guns. At the end of the day, licensed gun owners are not the reason why we have firearm-related violence in Canada. I mean, the Liberals have been pushing gun control for 7 years, and during that time, violent crime is up 32%, gang violence is up 92%, essentially doubled. So the more gun control they're rolling out, it's having, I'm not going to say it's having the opposite effect, but the opposite is happening. So I don't know. I'm just hoping that Canadians out there can finally get past this, start paying attention, and realize that they're being gaslit by the Liberals.
Okay, Rob, please stand by. Take a quick break. Come back. Open the phone lines. Phone me on this now. If you're a gun owner, maybe you support the government here. The government has a lot of support on gun control. I mean, if you take a look at some of the polling on it, it will show that there's a lot of support for stuff that the Liberal government has done here. They know this is good politics for them, I believe, in a lot of urban ridings, but I think a lot of it is based on some misplaced fear and misinformation. But you phone me and tell me what you think. 604-280-9898. One of the things that, every time I hear the Prime Minister talk about guns that designed to kill the largest number of people in the shortest amount of time, I think it's so misleading That to me is a description of an automatic weapon that's already banned. You phone me and tell me what you think, though. 604-280-9898 is the number. Star 9898, toll free in your cell. Rod Giltaca is my guest. This is Mike Smyth. More after this.
Now, back to the Mike Smyth Show.
Talking about the federal firearms ban and the buyback program that's looming here with my guest, Rod Giltaca. Dave in Mission on the phone. Hi, Dave. Go ahead.
Hey, Mike. It's when I'm listening to Rod talk about how Trudeau is gaslighting people, all I have to do is go back to yesterday when you had that MP on from the Liberal Party, and all he did was say that Trudeau never, ever says anything wrong. He doesn't lie about anything. That's how bad politics has got in this country now. And when you have people that won't stand up and actually call people out for lying, then we're in real trouble here. Be it on the gun file or anything else this country needs to do.
Okay, thank you for that. Well, I mean, you're going to get political spin and double talk no matter from every party. That's just, I think, kind of the nature of politics. On this particular gun file, though, I guess, every time I hear Trudeau talk about these guns are designed to kill the most number of people in the shortest amount of time possible. I mean, Rod, can you explain to me, like, a semi-automatic rifle, how does that, can you basically explain how that works? You have to, it can only take a magazine with 6 bullets max, is that right?
It's 5 rounds maximum in Canada
5
for center fire semi-automatic rifles and shotguns.
Right, 5, okay. And you have to, and it requires a separate individual trigger pull for each round fired.
That's correct. These are the versions of firearms that the RCMP has determined are acceptable for the public to own for 100 years basically in Canada, and they're designed for sport shooting and hunting. That's what we've had.
Right. So, I mean, this is what I find frustrating is because I think some people believe out there that automatic weapons are available in the country and they're not. Natalie in Port Coquitlam. Hi, Natalie. Go ahead.
Hi, Mike. I 100% agree with you. I mean, listen, so a lot of these guns on the street that they're referring to are rifles that the bad guys have built into automatic weapons, semi-automatics or whatever. But you're right. The government or the parties, especially the Trudeau government, it's a tool in the tool chest and gearing up for the election campaign. And it's disgusting. It's disgusting because they're doing nothing. The domestic violence, suicide rates have increased, so has gun violence. I want to know what they're doing about that before they take away hunting rifles from farmers.
Well, okay, thank you for that. Well, if a representative of the government was here right now, they would tell you that they are cracking down on organized crime. They are cracking down on guns being smuggled across the border. Rod, what do you think of that part of it? Like, is the bigger problem guns coming in from the United States illegally?
Well, the problem, when it comes to the majority of firearms used in criminal acts, they're overwhelmingly illegally imported from the United States. But the problem is crime. The problem is violent crime. And if there were someone from the Liberal government here, they'd say, well, we've made this investment. They always talk about funding investments. That's all they can talk about on fighting crime. But yet you look at every funding announcement they've made, they very rarely even dole that money out. There's still money from the $347 million that Ralph Goodale announced 6 years ago that has not been allocated. So they cover up their failures by just saying, we're giving CBSA $400 million. It's always just about money.
Yeah. Jack and Delta. Hi, Jack. Go ahead.
Hi there, Mike. The problem that I see, I am for getting rid of these crazy assault rifles that are, the AR-15 types, but there are a bunch of innocent Canadians that are hunters and living not just in urban areas, and they're going to paintbrush those innocent Canadians with the kind of like a criminal paintbrush if they don't, give in to the demands of this Liberal government. And that's what I feel this government keeps doing. Like, let's just make an innocent Canadian guilty, just like they wanted to. Why? If they're going to go after criminals, why can't they freeze their bank accounts instead of just innocent Canadians? Why can't they really go after criminals? They can do it to regular folk.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, like the AR-15, I guess, is the most notorious firearm in this category of what the government describes as an assault weapon. This is a restricted firearm, Rod, correct? The AR-15, or it was before it was banned, right?
Right. So you have to be licensed to own it, which is about a 6-month process. It's registered, so the government knows where they are. It can only be discharged at an approved shooting range. It has very strict storage requirements, and there's about 90,000 in Canada. The AR-15 has not been a problem in Canada.
Right, and you're not allowed to hunt with it.
No, and there's no real reason other than politics, but because the AR-15 is equivalent to any, and I mean any, semi-automatic hunting rifle out there. It just looks a little crazier. And that's, again, right, here we are arguing about appearances and beliefs within the public based on propaganda, not on actual facts.
It is a scary looking weapon. I mean, it's got this sort of black, short muzzle. It's got that sort of pistol grip. So it does look like a weapon. It looks like a weapon of war. That's what it looks like. Like, I take your point. It functions the same as any other basic function of a semi-automatic rifle you could use for hunting, but it just looks scary.
Well, yeah, and I think we got to get back to an appropriate ideology in Canada, and it's probably personified in one question. Either something is true or it isn't.
We're continuing to follow it closely, to say the least. Rod, thank you for your time today.
Thanks so much, Mike. Okay,
Rod Giltaca, Canadian Coalition for Firearm Rights. Phone me on the buzz line in this one today. Let me know what you think. We may play it later. 604-331-BUZZ is the number to call. 604-331-2899.